Okay, so you know that familiar feeling, right? Like heart starts racing a little before a big presentation, or maybe you get that kind of like pit in your stomach when things are just feel kind of unpredictable.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
That's normal anxiety, just our body's natural way of sort of reacting to anything that seems like it could be a threat.
Right, exactly, like a built-in alarm system kind of.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. But But then there's this whole other side of anxiety where things get a bit more complicated, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Where that normal anxiety it kind of morphs into something bigger, something that kind of sticks around longer and maybe feels a lot stronger than the situation actually calls for.
Right, and it's not just like a fleeting feeling, it's more intense, like it really takes hold and it can even start to impact your daily life, make it hard to do the things you normally would.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when we start talking about anxiety disorders and one thing that's really striking is just how common these disorders actually are.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The numbers they're pretty surprising actually.
Yeah, like right now at this very moment, the data suggests that around 4% of adults are grappling with generalized anxiety disorder.
Wow.
And when you look at it over a lifetime, that number it jumps up to about 9%. So it's something that touches a significant portion of the population at some point.
Yeah, and it's interesting how it seems to affect women more often than men,
Yeah.
like almost twice as often.
Right, that is interesting. And it's also worth noting that it's most prevalent between the ages of 30 and 60, though of course it can occur outside of that age range as well.
For sure, for
So
sure.
so we're dealing with a pretty widespread issue here, and today we really want to dive deep into the roots of anxiety disorders.
Yeah, get beneath the surface, really explore what's going on.
Exactly. And one of the key things that our sources emphasize is that it's rarely a simple explanation. Like we can't just point to one single cause and say, okay, that's it.
Right. It's more like a puzzle with all these different pieces that fit together. Like there are physiological factors, psychological factors, lifestyle factors, all intertwined.
Yeah, it's a really complex picture. So let's start with the physical side of things. Like what's happening in the body when someone experiences an anxiety disorder?
Okay, well, researchers have actually found some really interesting things, like specific physiological differences in people with certain anxiety disorders. For example, with obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD, there's some evidence that suggests a possible issue with serotonin.
Oh, interesting.
Serotonin it's a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger in the brain that helps regulate things like mood and there's a thought that there might be an imbalance or some kind of disturbance in serotonin in people with OCD. And then you also see increased brain activity in particular areas like the prefrontal cortex and the caudate nucleus.
And so when we think about treatments for OCD, like medications that are designed to affect serotonin levels, it makes sense that they can be effective, right? Because they're targeting this underlying biological component.
Right, exactly. But it's important to remember that these physiological aspects are they're not the whole story, They're not the sole cause of anxiety disorders.
Okay, so if it's not just a straightforward chemical imbalance, what else is going on? Like what might be contributing to these changes in the brain and the body in the first place?
Well, our sources point to chronic stress and psychological conflicts as major potential factors. For example, prolonged stress could affect the amygdala, it's like the brain's fear center, and the locus coeruleus, which plays a role in the fight or flight response. And these are key areas that are involved in panic disorder.
And there's also this theory that suppressed anger could potentially affect serotonin levels, particularly in the context of OCD, which is really fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's a really interesting connection. Like it highlights how interconnected our emotional state and our physical state really are.
Exactly. So it's not just a matter of the brain influencing the body. It's a two-way street.
Right, for sure.
So we've touched on the physiological side, but what about the psychological factors? What role do those play in anxiety disorders?
Yeah. Well, there are quite a few psychological contributors that our sources highlight. Anxious self-talk is a big one. That constant stream of negative thoughts and worries and just self-doubt. it can really amplify anxiety.
Yeah, like that inner critic that's always telling you you're gonna mess things up or that things are gonna go wrong.
Right, exactly. And it's not just the content of the thoughts themselves, but the sheer frequency and intensity of them that can really fuel anxiety.
Okay, so it's like our own minds can kind of become this breeding ground for anxiety.
Yeah, and in a way, yeah, and there's also mistaken beliefs. These are like irrational or unhelpful assumptions that we make about ourselves or the world around us.
Okay, so give me an example of a mistaken belief.
Well, one common one is called disqualifying the positive, where you basically dismiss any positive experiences or compliments, and you kind of tell yourself that they don't really count or that people are just
Yeah.
being nice.
Right, right. I've definitely done that before.
Yeah, and another one is jumping to conclusions where you assume you know what other people are thinking, or you predict negative outcomes without any real evidence.
So it's like we're kind of creating these self-fulfilling prophecies in a way.
Yeah, it can definitely feel like that sometimes. And these kinds of thought patterns, they can really keep us stuck in a cycle of anxiety.
Right, right. It's like a mental trap almost. And what about avoidance? Because I know that a lot of people who experience anxiety, they try to avoid the things that trigger those feelings, which is understandable, but is that helpful in the long run?
Well, it might provide temporary relief, but in the long term, avoidance actually tends to strengthen anxiety. It's like the more you avoid something, the scarier it becomes in your mind because you're not giving yourself the opportunity to learn that you can cope with it.
Right. It's like you're reinforcing that fear by not facing it.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like with phobias, for example.
Yeah.
If you have a phobia of spiders and you always run away from them, you never get the chance to see that most spiders are actually harmless.
Okay. So avoidance is not the answer, but it's a natural human response, right?
Yeah.
Like we want to protect ourselves from things that make us uncomfortable.
Yeah, of course, of course. But the key is to find healthier ways of managing that discomfort, ways that don't keep us trapped in a cycle of fear.
Right, right. And so we've talked about physiological factors, psychological factors. What about lifestyle factors? Like how does our lifestyle impact our anxiety levels?
Well, lifestyle is huge. Like if you're living a really high stress lifestyle, constantly under pressure, that's definitely going to exacerbate any underlying anxiety you might have.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then there's the whole thing about stimulants and dietary factors like
Yep.
excessive caffeine intake, poor nutrition. Those can have a direct impact on anxiety levels.
Right, right. Like I know if I drink too much coffee, I can definitely feel my anxiety go up.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. And then there's also the lack of things like exercise and proper sleep. Those are so important for regulating mood and energy levels.
Yeah, so it's really about looking at the whole picture, right? Like all these different aspects of our lives can contribute to or help to alleviate anxiety.
Exactly. And that's why a comprehensive approach to recovery is so important.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Like given that anxiety disorders arise from this complex interplay of factors, how do we approach recovery in a way that addresses all of these different elements?
Well, our sources really emphasize the importance of a holistic approach.
Mm.
It's not just about focusing on one thing like medication or therapy in isolation. It's about addressing the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the lifestyle factors all together.
Right. So where do we even begin with that? Like what are some of the key self-management techniques and skills that people can start exploring?
Okay, well let's start with the physical stuff because there are some really simple yet effective things you can do, like breathing exercises.
Okay.
Yeah, like abdominal breathing, where you focus on taking these deep, slow breaths that expand your belly as you inhale.
Okay.
This can be really calming
Uh-huh.
because it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is like the body's relaxation response.
Okay. And is there a specific technique for abdominal breathing that you recommend?
Yeah, one simple technique that our sources mention is to count backwards slowly from 10 to 1 with each exhale.
Okay. I like that. It's simple, it's easy to remember, it's something you can do anywhere.
Exactly.
So breathing exercises are a good starting point. And what other physical techniques can be helpful?
Well, regular deep relaxation is really important too.
Oh.
This could involve things like progressive muscle relaxation, where you systematically tense and then release different muscle groups in your body,
Okay.
or passive relaxation where you just, lie down and focus on letting your body become heavy and relaxed.
Okay.
And of course there's exercise, regular aerobic exercise,
Right, right.
which offers a ton of benefits, from increased oxygen flow and endorphin release, which can boost mood, to reduce muscle tension and improved cardiovascular health.
Okay, so what kind of exercise are we talking about here? And how much is enough to make a difference in terms of anxiety?
Well, our sources suggest aiming for around 20 to 30 minutes of aerobic exercise most days of the week.
Okay.
So things like brisk walking, running, cycling, swimming, dancing, whatever you enjoy, whatever gets your heart rate up.
Okay, and what if you're someone who's not used to exercising? Like what's a good way to start without overwhelming yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the key is to start gradually, set small achievable goals at first. Like maybe just 10 minutes every other day. And then gradually increase the duration and the frequency as you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's important to listen to your body. Don't push yourself too hard, especially at the beginning.
Right, right. Slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And some people find it helpful to keep like a little exercise log, where they track their activity and how they feel afterward. It can be motivating to see your progress, and it can also help you to identify any patterns, like maybe certain types of exercise that seem to be particularly helpful for reducing anxiety.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, so we've covered some physical techniques. What about behavioral strategies? Like what are some things people can do to change their behavior in a way that helps to manage anxiety?
Okay, well there are specific coping techniques you can learn that can help you to interrupt those panic reactions when they start to happen.
Oh, okay, like in the moment techniques.
Exactly, exactly. And for people who have specific phobias, there are techniques that involve imagery and gradual real-life exposure that can be really effective.
Okay.
So this often involves creating what's called an anxiety hierarchy, where you basically list out all the feared situations from the least scary to the most scary.
Okay.
And then you gradually expose yourself to them in a controlled way, starting with the least scary ones and working your way up.
Oh, okay. So it's like a step-by-step approach to facing your fears.
Exactly, exactly. And this can help to desensitize you to the things that trigger your anxiety.
Okay, and what about assertiveness? Because I know that a lack of assertiveness can sometimes contribute to anxiety.
Right, right. Because if you're not able to stand up for yourself or express your needs effectively, you can end up feeling really powerless and anxious.
Right.
So assertiveness training can be really helpful for people who struggle with this.
Okay.
And assertiveness is not about being aggressive. It's about finding that balance between being passive and being aggressive. It's about being able to express your needs and your boundaries respectfully while still respecting the rights of others.
Right. Right. So it's like that middle ground.
Exactly, exactly. And learning to use I statements to express your feelings, like instead of saying you always do this, you can say I feel hurt when you do this.
Okay.
And making requests instead of demands. Those are all really important skills in assertiveness.
Okay. And are there any other behavioral skills that are important for managing anxiety?
Yeah, time management is a big one.
Yeah.
If you're feeling constantly overwhelmed and rushed, that's going to contribute to anxiety.
Right.
So learning to prioritize tasks, delegate responsibilities when you can, allow yourself extra time for things, let go of perfectionism, overcome procrastination, all of those things can really help to reduce stress and anxiety.
Okay, so it's about being proactive. It's about taking control of your time and your schedule.
Exactly. Exactly. And one really important thing to remember is to schedule downtime for yourself.
Okay.
Make sure you're taking time to rest, to do things you enjoy, to nurture your relationship.
Right, right. Because if we're constantly go go go, that's just going to burn us out.
Exactly. Exactly. So downtime is not a luxury. It's a necessity.
Okay, so we've talked about physical techniques, behavioral strategies. What about emotional self-management? Like how do we manage our emotions in a way that helps to reduce anxiety?
Well, one of the key things is to learn to identify and express your feelings in healthy ways. Because suppressing emotions, especially difficult ones like anger or sadness, it can really create this internal pressure that can manifest as anxiety.
Right, so it's like we're holding it all in, and it's got to come out somehow.
Exactly.
So how do we get better at identifying and expressing our emotions?
Well, one thing that can be helpful is to pay attention to where you feel different emotions in your body.
Okay.
Do you feel anger in your chest? Do you feel sadness in your stomach? Everyone's a little different.
Right.
But just becoming aware of those physical sensations can help you to start to identify what you're feeling.
Okay.
And it's important to use feeling words to actually name those emotions. Like I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel happy. Just putting a name to it can help to make it feel less overwhelming.
Right, right. It's like you're giving it a label, you're making it more concrete.
Right. Exactly. And then when it comes to expressing those emotions, it's about finding healthy outlets. Like talking to someone you trust, writing in a journal, doing something creative.
Okay.
And when it comes to anger, it's about finding constructive ways to express it.
Yeah.
Like using those I statements we talked about earlier
Right.
to communicate your feelings without blaming or attacking the other person.
Okay, so it's about being assertive but not aggressive.
Exactly. And it's about finding ways to release that anger in a way that doesn't hurt yourself or others.
Right, right. That makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about physical techniques, behavioral strategies, emotional self-management. What about the mental side of things? Like how do we address those negative thought patterns that can fuel anxiety?
Okay, well, this is where we get into the realm of cognitive techniques, like challenging negative self-talk.
Okay.
This involves becoming aware of those negative thoughts when they pop up,
Yeah.
and then consciously interrupting them.
Okay, so like catching yourself in the act.
Exactly. And then you can use relaxation techniques or redirect your attention to something else to kind of break that cycle of negative thinking.
Okay.
And then another important step is to actually write down more balanced and realistic counterstatements to those negative thoughts. Like if you're thinking I'm going to fail this test, you can write down I've studied hard and I'm going to do my best.
Okay, so it's about replacing those negative thoughts with more positive or at least more neutral ones.
Exactly. And the more you do this, the more you're training your brain to respond to situations in a less anxious way.
Right, right. It's like you're creating new neural pathways.
Exactly. And you can also work on challenging underlying mistaken beliefs, like those irrational assumptions we talked about earlier. And this involves questioning those beliefs
Yeah.
and coming up with logical counter arguments, and then you can develop self-supporting affirmations that reinforce those more positive beliefs.
Okay, so it's like a two-pronged approach, like challenging the negative and then reinforcing the positive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there are also what are called diffusion techniques,
Okay.
which can be really helpful. And these techniques help you to kind of create some distance from your thoughts,
Yeah.
so they don't have as much power over you.
Okay.
And there are lots of different ways to do this. Like you can imagine your thoughts as clouds passing by or as leaves floating down a stream, just something to kind of help you to see them as just thoughts, not as facts.
Right, right. So it's about not getting caught up in them, not letting them take over.
Exactly. And then finally, it's important to recognize and work on overcoming perfectionistic thinking styles. Like should and must thinking, all or nothing thinking, overgeneralization, all those cognitive distortions that can contribute to anxiety.
Right, right. Because those kinds of thinking patterns can really set us up for failure, and make us feel like we're never good enough.
Exactly. So it's about challenging those rigid thought patterns and developing more flexible and realistic ways of thinking.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of different self-management techniques. Now, you've also mentioned the importance of lifestyle factors. Like what are some of the key areas within our lifestyle that can really impact our anxiety levels?
Well, diet is a big one. What you eat can really affect how you feel, both physically and emotionally.
Right.
Our sources emphasize the importance of a healthy, balanced diet that minimizes processed foods and potential allergens, and focuses on things like whole grains, fresh fruits and vegetables, lean protein sources, healthy fats.
Okay, so like whole foods diet.
Exactly, exactly. And it's also important to be mindful of things like caffeine and sugar, because those can definitely exacerbate anxiety.
Right, right. And what about sleep? Because I know that sleep deprivation can make anxiety worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Sleep is crucial for regulating mood and energy levels. Most adults need around 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night.
Yeah.
And it's not just the quantity, it's the quality that matters too.
Right.
Both deep sleep and REM sleep
Mm.
play important roles in emotional regulation. So if you're not getting enough of either of those stages of sleep, that can definitely contribute to anxiety.
Okay. And we've already talked about exercise, but it's worth mentioning again, right? Because it has so many benefits for both physical and mental health.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Exercise is one of the best things you can do for managing anxiety.
Okay, and beyond diet, sleep, and exercise, what are some other lifestyle factors that are important?
Well, prioritizing downtime and relaxation is crucial.
Yeah.
Make sure you're taking time for yourself to rest, to do things you enjoy, to just unwind and de-stress.
Right, right, because it's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of daily life and forget to take care of ourselves.
Exactly, exactly. And social connection and intimacy are also really important.
Okay.
Having close friends and a strong support network can act as a buffer against anxiety. And
Yeah.
and that also involves establishing healthy boundaries in your relationships and fostering healthy intimacy.
Okay.
Self-care is another key component. This involves identifying and meeting your basic needs and engaging in activities that nurture your well-being.
Right, right. So it's about being kind to yourself, treating yourself with compassion.
Exactly, exactly. And finally, cultivating a sense of purpose and meaning in your life can really contribute to a greater sense of well-being and reduce feelings of anxiety.
Okay. And how do we cultivate that sense of purpose and meaning?
Well, it's different for everyone, but it often involves exploring your values and your goals. What's important to you? What do you want to achieve in your life?
Right.
And some people find that engaging with spirituality can be helpful in this regard. It can provide a sense of hope and a positive framework for coping with challenges.
Okay, so it's about finding what gives your life meaning, what makes you feel fulfilled.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of different self-management strategies and lifestyle adjustments. Now, while these are incredibly valuable, there are times when seeking additional support is necessary. So when would you advise someone to consider reaching out for professional help and perhaps exploring medication options?
Well, our sources suggest that if you're feeling like you're struggling to manage your anxiety on your own, or if it's really interfering with your daily life, then it's definitely a good idea to reach out to a mental health professional,
Yeah.
someone who specializes in treating anxiety disorders.
Okay, and the ADA website, the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, is a good resource for finding therapists, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, they have a directory of therapists all over the country.
Okay, great. And what about medication? Because I know that's a topic that a lot of people have questions about. Is it safe? Is it effective? Is it right for me?
Yeah, yeah, those are all valid questions. And the answer is it really depends. Medication can be a helpful tool for some people, especially when anxiety is severe or debilitating or if it's really interfering with their ability to function in daily life.
Okay.
But it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, and it's definitely something that should be discussed carefully with a doctor or a psychiatrist who can assess your individual situation and help you to make an informed decision.
Okay, and what are some of the different types of medications that are used to treat anxiety disorders?
Well, there are a few different classes of drugs that are commonly prescribed. Tranquilizers, also known as benzodiazepines, like Xanax, Klonopin, Valium. Those are often used to provide short-term relief from anxiety symptoms,
Okay.
but they can be habit-forming. So they're typically not prescribed for long-term use.
Okay.
And then there are antidepressants, particularly SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors,
Okay.
which are often effective for treating both anxiety and depression.
Okay.
And these medications, they work by increasing the levels of serotonin in the brain, which can help to regulate mood and reduce anxiety symptoms.
Okay. And so is medication always a long-term solution
Yeah.
or can it be used for a shorter period of time?
Well, it really depends on the individual and the severity of their symptoms.
Okay.
Sometimes medication is is used for a limited period of time just to help manage acute symptoms. And other times it might be used for longer-term maintenance, especially if someone has chronic anxiety that hasn't responded well to other treatments.
Okay. And it's important to emphasize that the decision about whether or not to use medication is a very personal one.
Right, absolutely.
And it's something that should be made in consultation with a healthcare professional.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive today, what's the key takeaway message you'd like our listeners to remember about understanding and managing anxiety disorders?
Well, I think the main message is that anxiety is a complex issue.
Yeah.
It's not just a matter of willpower or mind over matter.
No.
It's influenced by a whole range of
Yeah.
factors. From our biology to our psychology to our lifestyle and our personal history.
Right, so it's not our fault if we're struggling with anxiety.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And the good news is that there are a lot of effective tools and strategies out there that can help. It's about finding what works for you.
Right, so it's about being proactive, it's about taking charge of your mental health.
Exactly. Exactly. And remembering that recovery is possible.
Right, it's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, and for those of you listening who would like to explore some of the resources that we've mentioned today, we'll include links in the show notes, things like the ADA website, contact information for other organizations that provide support and information about anxiety disorders.
Right. Great.
And I'd like to leave you with this thought. Consider identifying one small act of self-care that you can incorporate into your daily routine starting today. Something that nourishes your mind, your body, or your spirit.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And just notice how that small act of self-care can make a difference in how you feel.
Right. I think that's a great place to end.
Yeah, thanks for joining me today for this deep dive into anxiety disorders.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
All right, until next time, take care.
Take care.